Are we here? Yes. What's up, Tommy? Let's see if I managed to fuck this up or not. I did some tests with my brother last night. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Long Island Ducks in the building. It's unfortunate I couldn't see them this year. Oh, there he is. All right, let's send it your way. See if this works. Hello, Figuerovia. Sorry, I don't know how to say that. There he is.
Are we live?
What's up, buddy?
Hey, Mike McManus, how are you?
Dude, how you doing, man? Thanks for doing it.
Good. Can you hear me all right? I'm on the Bluetooth.
Yeah,
all right, cool.
You're getting Hollywood on me already, I see.
I know. I feel like a regular agent.
I'm just fucking...
No, I've got the perfect job for you guys. It's a Cinnamon Toast Crunch commercial. You gotta shave the beard, though.
For me?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I'm your new agent.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, I could use it.
No problem.
I actually thought about getting rid of the beard, but I just did a little trim instead because it's like I've had facial hair for so long at this point that like when I shave, I actually don't recognize myself. Like you have a nice jawline. I actually have one of these. Yeah, you do. I have one of these too.
Thank you.
What do you call this thing?
A chin.
A chin. Yes.
Yeah.
I have a chin as well, and but you know, my face gets a little puffy because I like the beer, but I actually haven't drank in 4 months. So.
Oh, congratulations.
Thanks, man.
Was that a conscious choice, or were you like, I have to get sober, or was it like a COVID thing that?
I mean, it was both, to be honest, because like I like, you know, let's be honest, like I just kind of had a drinking problem already. You know, and then like when COVID happened, it was just kind of like, hey, there's no rules. So like, let's just get fucking crazy. And I just had to kind of like hit the brake button a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been working out. I don't know how long it's going to last, but it's been 4 months. I never thought that would be possible. So,
well, congrats. Keep up the good work.
I appreciate it. So I wanted to just start by just giving a little background as to like what we're doing this for.
Sure.
The people that my band Gamblers is working with, we're trying to just like, everybody's trying to come up with like what to do because there's no shows, you know, like we're putting out this record in a couple weeks called Small World on September 25th. There's my first plug of the night of many. Matt's
I got
to have it up on his screen.
This is my workstation, and now it's a very nice and it's like a luscious type. It's very calming. It's a calming blue and green, so I think it's a good background to have.
No, I appreciate that. It looks really cool when you're actually holding like the vinyl in your hands, and I think
you pressed it. Hell,
yeah.
I have so many questions about this album because I haven't heard anything about it yet.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. So we're calling this series Small Talk, which is a play on the album title Small World, and I wanted to bring you on. You were kind enough to agree to do it. And yeah, it's just one of those things, man. It's like we're just trying to figure out ways to get the word out there, even though there's no traveling and no touring that could be done. So,
sure.
Yeah, we basically, you know, you know as well as anybody like how the music game is, and been at it for a long time in this group the last 4 years, and then you know through just a bunch of just slamming my head against the wall for a number of years, we broke through and ended up getting a distribution deal. So yes, we are pressing vinyl. We're going to be in stores. We're going to be
awesome
in over 40 record stores across the country for whatever that's worth with COVID times. But yeah, man. So this is just kind of like a way to do something fun and cool, and we got some interesting guests lined up. So yeah, and starting it off with a bang with you, man. So
with me, I'm the first.
You're the first, man. This is the debut.
Well, thank you.
The debut episode.
Oh, I love it.
Small Talk.
I'm so stoked. Well, yeah. So I was wondering because in preparation, I went back. I listened to Underage Blood Crusade, which is your first album. So I'm sure we got a couple of Massapequa people in this chat, but for everybody
I would imagine
who may not have heard of Fastizio before, so Mike and I went to high school together. He's one of my oldest friends. I think I met you when I was probably 14 or 15.
Sounds about right.
And you're one of like 2 or 3 people that I keep in touch with from Massapequa.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly how I was viewed. I assume I was kind of like an annoying little brother, but those relationships meant so much to me because you, Tom Moran, everybody else in those scenes, Ray and Nick Lee, and Johnny Hoblin, and you guys all were the cool older brothers. Like Will Fortham coming to chorus class with a Sonic Youth shirt. I was like, "What's Sonic Youth?"
Right.
You guys talking about Dinosaur Jr.
Yep.
It was this was not stuff that was handed down by my boomer father, or this was not stuff, and this was before Spotify, so it was kind of still a little bit of the word of mouth thing. And the other cool thing that you guys had going was you and Fastizio and Exemption, put out 2 great albums. I think they are really fantastic, and they hold up. And
which
I guess
Exemption CD are you talking about? Are you talking about
Rabbit Hole?
Oh, okay, so you're going Rabbit Hole. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the other ones are, Public Cemetery Party is fantastic as well.
I mean, it's a masterpiece.
Harmony of the Spheres. It was just those 2 albums hit me at this place. It was I'd never before been had friends who were like, come and see our show in Amityville. Yep. It was those first steps into maturity, and luckily you guys were good role models. And welcomed me, even if I was, a little green, a little bit annoying. I considered myself, I was probably an annoying kid, but it was a really interesting experience. And my first question is, what took so long? I love those albums, and everybody, and I'm guilty of the same thing. Were you just waiting for the perfect moment? And why is it now? Why is this the album? Why is this Gamblers thing? Because you went and you did hip hop for a while. Yeah. You were for Das Racist, correct?
Yeah.
We went to, when you came to town, we went to Low End Theory together.
Dude,
you were super into that.
That was such a fun night, man. That was
you and a stranger crashed on my couch.
Yeah.
I don't know who that guy was.
My buddy Dan, it was so I studied in Argentina I'm gonna answer your question, but
that's fine.
Explain Dan. I studied in Argentina for a couple months in college, not even a couple months, like 1 month, and he was my roommate down there, but he was from California, so we just kind of became friends, and I don't know, those are just crazy days where you're just like, hey man, I'm in LA, can I crash on your couch and bring my friend? I don't know who does that, but.
I mean, it was fine. It was just Exactly.
Yeah.
It was not what I expected, but it was still a really interesting time.
I appreciate you accommodating us, and that was a really fun trip, and I do want to talk about that. But just to answer your question, I mean, I never stopped putting out music, since the days of Fastizio, and it's so funny because I don't know that a whole entire month ever goes by without someone bringing Fastizio up to me. It's so crazy.
Really?
It might be a random text message or something online I see, and it's so weird, but I think those were important times for everyone, just kind of coming into our own as people and as musicians and stuff. But yeah, I never stopped. I mean, I put out kind of my goal with Gamblers was all right, I want to put out a record for real, either through a label or through some way, and I want to get into record stores. And I want to have put up numbers on Spotify and YouTube. I want to do the thing, you know what I mean? Because forever after Fastizio, I went down to shout out to Exemption, a rabbit hole of my own of just doing crazy ass music and putting it out on Bandcamp. And then I eventually got into producing hip hop, and I kind of very quickly gained some traction with that, and ended up doing some really cool projects. You mentioned Heens from Das Racist. Other opportunities came through that, which was great. But I always kind of in the back of my mind was I'm a songwriter, you know what I mean? And I think with Gamblers, like from the get-go, that was my goal, was to be at the point where we're at now, finally. It took 4 or 5 years of building the band, of destroying the band, of, just fucking getting up and trying again, and blood, sweat, and tears, and the whole story. But eventually we cracked through, and we have a distribution deal. We have like PR, and we have like a lot of help around now. We have a support system, so now when we put a song out, it actually has a little bit of legs to it, which is nice. And the band's in the best position that we've ever been in. It's just no longer the original lineup because some guys couldn't hang anymore, and I totally understand. Like, I don't hold anything against anyone. Like, I'm kind of like, psychotic with like, no, we got to do this, and like,
is Johnny still in the band? You got Johnny, Boris.
Boris is gone. Everybody that you remember is gone. I love all those guys. Yes. They're all gone. I mean, Johnny, to be honest, we haven't really announced this yet, but he's going to be playing on the next record, and we're doing a live thing actually at Adventureland. I haven't announced that yet, but we're
sick.
We're playing at Adventureland, no audience. John's playing big. John's very like, I don't one day he's like, let's take over the world, like, with music, and the next day he's like, I'm out. So I don't know like where his head's at, but like he's signed on to do this next couple of things with me. So that'll be cool. But I'm working with like some of the people now that I'm really excited about. I don't think you know any of them personally, but
yeah. What from what I've heard of the Gamblers stuff, I haven't heard this new album, but the stuff that you're doing before, it actually feels like we're on these similar trajectories where, 10 years ago, I was so certain of what I was and what my sound was. I was cute acoustic guitar guy. I was going to write these cute acoustic guitar songs. You had this great, you always had a great in-between, between the softer music. I remember you doing 5 Years, that cover, the David Bowie song at Village Pub Set.
You mentioned that on some show, I think.
It was just such a great performance of it for some reason. It was a weird melding. Like I said, you guys were the Dinosaur Jr. Sonic Youth scene to me, and then here you are doing this David Bowie song that I knew and loved for years, and it was just this weird moment for me that stands out. You were so good at mixing that with the harder rock, and then you tried to, you blew it up for a while. You were going hard. You were doing the hip-hop stuff. Yep. I went, Terminal Cases is not a funny, sweet album. No. Previously on, Matt Bennett rocks. You produced that.
And by the way, I listen to that like often. I wish we kept going with that, Like I wish we did more, and I wish we like spent a longer period of time on it. Like that's the one thing, as much as I love that EP, and it's great, the songs are great. I mean, it does have that really cool energy that like we captured because we did it so quickly. But the one thing about that is like, man, I wish we did a full record, and I wish we like spent like 6 months doing it. But that's me. Like I always want to like make it a thing, you know what I mean? And like sometimes that's like my Achilles heel is like, you should just have fun more, and that, I don't know. But anyway.
Well, the more that I record, the more I appreciate each person's individual process. And you producing that album, I definitely could see it being a 6-month thing of, we could get super Brian Wilson, exactly. Get the sand pit in there with the piano in it. Like you have that type of mind. But, especially for that EP, I feel like we captured this chaotic New York thing that works. And that's really, I wanted to get back to my roots of what I listened to, of this, like television, Lou Reed, that type of New York, and just a harder edge. And now I'm trying to go back to a more acoustic, sweet, touching back into what people liked in the first place, but evolving. And it sounds like for you, Gamblers is that evolution. You have your full band behind you, and it's a more mature sound. It's more focused than Fastizio, but it's still, it seems like a more mature direction for you. And I'm excited to listen to this new album.
Yeah, cool, man. No, I appreciate that. Thank you for giving Gamblers and the album so much airtime.
Hey, no problem. I'm excited to listen to it. Once again, my biggest question was just like, what took so long? Not in a bad way, because I also took a long time trying to figure out what that next step was going to be. And it's hard. You feel like you have to put out a definitive statement. This is, when you're young at least, this is the thing. This is the album. It has to be monumental. And the older you get, and also the way that the internet is moving, where it's not about the album. Oh, your album cover disappeared. Where it's not about the album anymore. It's about the song and the streams. It's not about the definitive, album statement. It might be more about this song will sum up my summer. This, looking for a little tinier moment.
Right.
Something that'll fit on a Spotify playlist that flows through people's life. Music has stopped becoming this monumental thing, and it's a little bit more about just peppering people's lives with joy, as opposed to making people sit and think about. This is Terminal Cases. I want them to sit and think about my misery.
Yes.
And now I'm kind of like, no, I want to let's scale it back and have it be a nice listen, have a nice, pleasurable listen.
Well, I'm sure. I know that you've talked about this because I've seen interviews where you have. But would you mind spending a little time talking about Terminal Cases and the Robin Williams, just sort of how that came to be? Was that before he had? Was the idea around before he took his life?
Yes. I was writing that album, after the show that I worked on, Victorious, ended. I kept searching for things that I could do to branch myself out that weren't, hobbies that wouldn't take a weekend. Like, I could have done a puzzle, I could have done a 400-piece puzzle. I would have been done with it really quickly. So I started going way far out, like taking Japanese classes.
Yeah.
I was traveling a lot by myself. And one of the things I wanted to do was to write just this, complete out-of-left-field album to show people what I was capable of, but also to prove to myself that I was capable of doing it. Mm-hmm. So I tried to do every song is a different genre. At the same time, I was dealing with my parents splitting up. I was dealing with the show ending. I was unsure of what my future was going to be. And for some reason, I just kept watching these Robin Williams movies, and I noticed these threads through them. There's always a character named Jack. There's always strains on marital bonds. There are these recurring themes. He never, his characters either have grown up too fast or never want to grow up.
Right.
And I was just fascinated because I felt that way. I saw, those themes running through my life. I felt like I was both growing up too fast and not growing up at all. And I wanted to explore that through a serious concept album about Robin Williams.
That's amazing.
And
I love
then he died.
I love that shit though. That's. I kind of feel in a weird way like with gamblers, it's like I this has to be the thing that like establishes me so I could do shit like that. You know what I mean? Like, I was doing shit like how you just described, except the difference was you had a platform and an audience, and like I was yelling into the dark. So it's like, but no, man, I think that's amazing. Like, I love that shit. So you mentioned you're kind of getting back to some of the like acoustic. I don't want to call it necessarily love songs, but like it's
like funny.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
Now we're back. I'm working with this guy, Shintaro Yasuda. We just put out a full cover album of Ariana Grande's Thank You Next, called Thank Me Next. And that was so refreshing because I'm a perfectionist with lyrics. I have to sit down and get the lyrics right, and then the music comes second. I've always been that way. And here was the first chance where the lyrics are there. I can't change them.
Right.
And we just focused on the music.
Right.
And for the first time, I felt free. I'd be like, what if we tried a Dr. Dre type sound on this song? What if we did, The Prodigy on this? What if we did 303? And I discovered more about what I was capable of doing.
Yeah.
And, I think about going into the studio, the phrase intersections with a microphone always pops into my head. It's just where you're at when the microphone's in front of you and what you bring to that when you're, crossing paths with it. And it just caught me in such a good place, this particular album, that it gave me all of these great new vibes, and, bad songs, sad songs out of there. I'm just back to writing funnier, or at least, more kind-hearted tracks.
I know.
So that's cool.
Speaking of Ariana, what were those, and I know we spoke a little bit privately about this, but what were those experiences like when you were performing on like stadium stages, essentially?
Yeah, about at the very last minute. I was going, she was doing a show in Georgia where our friend Liz Gillies, who played Jade on Victorious, that's where she lives and shoots her show Dynasty. And the plan had always been that they were going to sing one of their numbers from Victorious,
Right.
Give It Up, together. And I was like, I can't miss that for the world. These are my two best friends.
Yeah.
They're going to perform this. It's this weird, full circle.
Mm-hmm.
It almost feels like time is collapsing in on itself right now in so many ways because it's been 10 years since the premiere of Victorious, more now, and we just got put up on Netflix last year, and
shit, really?
that's
Victorious
brought
Netflix.
yes, and that brought a whole new group of people around to to watching this show, and then Liz is getting up on stage, and it's all this stuff. I'm like, I have to see this. This is a once in a lifetime moment.
Yeah.
And I get there, and Ariana's a little under the weather, and she usually does some song, and she goes, "I'm going to cut it, Matt. Do you want to do I Think You're Swell," which is the song I sang on the show.
Yes, of course.
With no prep, and I was like, sure. So I did a quick 15-minute sound check. They gave me just a generic in-ear.
Yeah.
So when I got up there, I could hear the roar of the stadium.
Fucking crazy.
But I just was like, focus, just tunnel vision in, and just Shawn Mendes it up. Just pretend like that you can't hear all of this stuff around. Because for people who may not know, in-ears are kind of like this.
Right.
Where you put them in your ear and it blocks everything out, but they mold it to your ear. So I didn't have that. Yeah. So I just kind of tunneled in, and it was a major rush. It was really, really. I've never performed for that big of a crowd.
Did you have to relearn the song, or you still know it like the back?
I know it like the back of my hand. Yeah. I've performed it I wrote it 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. So just performing it, it's become a staple.
That's so crazy. I always have a sense of pride when I see you doing these things, because you are still that kid to me in a lot of ways. Yeah. Obviously you're not a kid, but I don't know. I'm a sucker for like, just seeing your people kind of like grow up and do their thing. It's just amazing. I mean, to talk a little bit about how we first met, I remember, I think like you said, around 14, I was probably 16. And I remember that there was a time period where you would meet me every morning by where I parked my car.
Yeah, well, because Massapequa High School was walking distance from my house, so I would walk there, and you'd coincidentally, we would probably be like the last bell. We were really cutting it close.
Yes.
But, and what I remember is you were the first person I ever saw drinking tea in the morning. I don't know why that stands out, but you used to go to the Bagel Cafe, and you'd get a tea, and I remember being like, people drink tea? My family didn't. I don't know why, but I was like, wow, if Mike can drink tea in the morning, that's pretty cool.
That's just, crazy.
I don't know why that stands out, but it's just those little, I was always discovering things with the older kids.
Yeah. You
guys were always, I remember, were you there for the White party, the White album party? It was a whole group of us. Somebody was like, we're just going to listen to the White album. And I was like, what's the White album? And you guys, hold on, sorry, my sister's calling. And we sat around and listened to the White album. And I'm like, I didn't know that this was a thing. My dad's a Stones fan, and my mom likes, musicals. So revelations like that.
I don't remember that particular. Obviously, it was a long time ago. I very well could have been there. I remember obviously Matt and Brian's Choir of Angels.
Right.
Which was that your first experience playing music, I guess?
Yes, it was. Yeah, we wanted to be the Weird Al Yankovic of Massapequa High School, so we would do parodies of all of the local groups. Most groups did not like that, but it was still, we were just like, young internet trolls taking it to the streets.
Right.
We did there's an exemption song called Hot Sauce Committee, and we did the Country Sauce Committee, where we just sang the lyrics in a country style.
It's funny you say Hot Sauce Committee, because I think I recently came across a copy of The Rabbit Hole, and it just says Hot Sauce.
I think they changed it.
Yeah, but I know it as Hot Sauce Committee too, so that's crazy, man. I know you've obviously talked about this a million times, but like, what was the transition? We don't have to spend a ton of time if you're tired of it, but what was the transition from like being that kid with, you know, that first musical performance experience? And then I guess the thing that was always interesting was you weren't very vocal about the fact that you were going into the city for auditions.
I wasn't? Oh, that's good.
I don't remember that being the case. Like, I remember when things started happening being like, what, I mean, like, it made sense because of your personality, but I don't remember that being a thing that you were actively pursuing. Is that?
Yeah. You know, I started traveling, you know, Massapequa is an hour from Manhattan.
Right.
So I started going in regularly, a couple times a week when I was about 13 or 14 for auditions. And, I mean, those were great experiences, but they were kind of, I don't know if there were anything really to tell people. I mean, there were a couple of times I did some PSAs that people in school would see and be like, I saw you on MTV. Mm-hmm. There was one that I did, it was just some like, be the voice, be the change. And I was in shop class, and they had me put goggles on over my glasses. So I just remember people making fun of me because I went like that with my goggles and my glasses were underneath. It was just a redundancy. But, yeah, I mean, I guess those were great experiences going into Manhattan, not just because, you know, all of a sudden you're a small fish in a humongous pond, but sitting on the train, the Long Island Railroad, I listened to so much of Fastizio and Exemption, but, you know, you'd get your homework done and you just stare out the window listening to, this is where I discovered Bell and Sebastian and Neutral Milk Hotel and the bands that ended up meaning so much to me.
Right.
Bob Dylan. Just sitting and watching as the city goes by, and I would read. You know, that's where I started reading, you know, Albert Camus, reading The Stranger, and starting to question things. It was, and then you could go into Manhattan and go to an anarchist bookstore and be like, oh, I guess I'm not an anarchist, but you could open yourself up to. It was the first place I tried falafel. I was like, I've never tried this before, so I guess
I'll never get tired.
Maybe I did. Falafel. I love falafel so much.
I'll never get
but maybe I did. Maybe I didn't talk about it because it was like, it felt like my own thing. And then the second that, you know, I got out of high school, I moved to Los Angeles. Yeah. So, I don't know. I don't know if that answered your question, but.
No, I mean, yeah, it's, yeah, I just, I know, repeating myself, but I just don't remember you actively, like, engaging in that part of your life. So, I just found it was so interesting when things started to happen. I wanted to, I have a bunch of things that I'm like just thinking about, but do you remember when you were getting ready to do the virginity hit, and we all met at my family's bar, Peter McManus Cafe? Yeah,
and you gave a CD to the directors, to Huck Botko and Andrew Gerland.
That's so embarrassing. Did I really do that?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Hey, you got to shoot, you know, as Alexander Hamilton would say, you got to shoot your shot. You're not throwing away your shot.
Man, that was a thing that, like, I used to do back in the day. I would, like, just anyone that I met, like, I'd be like, hey, here's my CD. Like, I met the Mars Volta, and I was like, here's a Fastizio CD. Like,
don't overthink it. It was, you gotta.
When you're 18, you know.
You got the drive, and, the CD was good. Living under a tripod. Yes. You know, it's great treadmill music. I like Nervous Tick.
Thank you.
He Goes to Church.
Yes.
These are good tracks.
We did
a couple these things.
Yeah, no, you might be our biggest fan. I appreciate that.
I'll take it. You never did make T-shirts though. Otherwise,
no, we didn't. We dude, that's why I'm saying, like, this whole, not to, you know, again with the shameless plugs, but with this Gamblers album that we do have coming out on September 25th, I might add, we're like, now it's like,
this is the album cover, everyone.
Yeah, I mean, like, now I figure, like, I'm 31 years old. Like, I have figured out how to do things. But back then I was just, you know, if it wasn't for Andrew Krolikowski, we probably wouldn't have done anything. Him and Will, Will Forthman, of course.
Those are like the Vision Through Sound?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was, you know, like, that was a lot of my formative, just understanding of, like, how a band should operate, and really grateful for that experience.
You guys were always kind of jumping in and out of each other's projects in
Yeah.
a really cool way. That was, and I don't know if it's like this for every high school in America. I certainly, I don't keep up with local bands for any other area, but
Right.
yeah, the way that you would jump over and play with Tom, or you'd play, who else? You played with Visions Through Sound, and then were you in Casual Sweater Tuesday at some point, or is that a different?
No, those are really good friends of mine, though.
Right.
Particularly Justin Lieberman is a really good friend of mine. We actually did some stuff like a few years ago, but we never put it out. We were just kind of like working on stuff. Yeah, man. But it's yeah. I don't know why. Like again, like you said, I don't spend too much time thinking about like local scenes of other places. But like if you think about the amount of people that came from our area, now like Moontooth, or like
Yeah,
like Jen and Liz.
Jen Pelly.
It's just this weird thing. Like we had yourself, obviously. I know.
Anna Dresden.
Yes.
Do you remember Anna Dresden? She now writes on SNL.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't think we were friends. I think she's 1 or 2 years older than me, but I know who she is,
Okay.
certainly. And like, I don't know. Like, isn't that a little strange that there's like,
Absolutely.
there's so many people like swinging for the fucking fences. Like
Not
it's
just
cool.
that. I mean, there were people that haven't exactly made it into the entertainment industry full time who were very talented as well.
Yeah.
Jamie D. Philippis. I don't know if you remember Jamie, but she
course.
performed music. I thought she was so good.
She was great. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the Casual Sweater Tuesday guys,
Mhm.
they always impressed me because, I mean, they were 1 year older than me and could fully cover a Primus song and make it sound good. Like, just I mean, they would switch instruments on stage. I was so impressed by seeing them live. I mean, there were some, I'm trying to think of other ones, but it's been decades. Of course, the you guys, all the Dinosaurs in Vietnam guys.
Yeah, exactly.
That's whenever that was. So.
Yeah, Will Forthman, Beatty, again.
Beatty.
Yeah, Beatty. I made a lot of music with Beatty. So basically after Festizio, like Beatty and I made like 5 or 6 records, like of Helicopter Goes Kaboom, like the most insane shit. Basically my 20s was just like getting super fucked up and making like super fucked up music. And then I got into the hip hop thing, and then like towards 26, 27, like I turned on Gamblers like pretty heavy. But yeah, it's a fertile place, Long Island, and it's really interesting. I just watched like the comedians in cars getting coffee episode, Jerry and Alec Baldwin, and they go to the Massapequa Diner. It's like, it's so cool, man.
It's cool. I think they should have gone to the Nautilus. That's just me personally.
I agree 100%. 100%. That's an excellent point, actually.
Now, are you currently living in Massapequa, or are you in Brooklyn?
I am in Massapequa currently. I have been in Brooklyn and Manhattan and other places. I'm currently. I don't know if we can talk about this, but do you remember? I won't mention the show. It might be fine. Maybe you could jump in and say, "Oh, it was this." But I'm currently in the room that we filmed your audition for a particular show.
Oh yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, that was a very funny story. I don't know if you remember. It was a self-tape for the Goldbergs. I think I can say that. And the note. Do you remember the note that I got back? And I hope this. I don't mean to blow up your spot because you were reading with me, and it was so nice of you to do. The note was, Matt, can you shave, and also can the reader be better? I was like, he's doing me a favor. Are you kidding me? So I did it again, and they didn't call me.
I ruined your chance to be
No.
on the Goldbergs.
We did it a second.
Finding out.
I mean, I've auditioned for the Goldbergs a number of times. I would love to be on that show. I think it's great. I'm just waiting for the right role.
Oh man!
But
I don't think you told me that. You probably spared me that.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I did.
Fucking hilarious. And I'm really sorry.
No, it's not your fault at all. Self-tapes are the weirdest thing because it's just a major inconvenience. They're like, hey, can you bother a loved one to spend 45 minutes, getting this audition? No, but it's now the entire industry. COVID has killed auditions. So we're,
Well,
That's how this looks so good and professional. I got my self-tape set up.
okay,
I just
so
haven't turned the light on.
no, that's an interesting topic to dive into. You know, everyone's asking like, how are you holding up? But you know, so but at the same time, you bring up an interesting point, which is, I mean, well, my brother, for instance, he's in the film industry on the construction side. He builds sets. He just his most recent job was the Sopranos prequel. I don't know if that was his most recent, but he gets really interesting jobs. He's been, they're talking now about him going back to some show, Dr. Death, or so. I don't remember the show, but
Oh yeah,
something
so like a Stephen King type show.
something I don't even know. I don't
know.
want to butcher it. But my question is like, how have you been kind of handling it? You're filming auditions in your home, I guess?
Yeah, filming auditions, a lot of voiceover auditions.
Okay.
But even if you're self-taping an audition, all of the emails say start date TBD. You know, nobody has any idea when it's going to come back. And even the productions that start back up, you know, this just happened with the Batman. Right. They started refilming, and Robert Pattinson came down with COVID, and they had to stop production. Yeah, this just hit the news. Jeez. So even if you do everything right, one tiny domino can completely topple an entire production, and that's millions upon millions of dollars. Yeah. That is now at stake. So, look, I've gotten used to being in between jobs. Sure. So I have enough hobbies, and luckily I'm getting a great response. I got such a good response with the Thank Me Next album that now I'm gung-ho on putting out more music. And also there are other things. I'm looking into Twitch streaming. Yeah. I was like, I don't really play many video games, but you can DJ on Twitch. So I've done a couple of DJ sets on Instagram that have been so great. Yeah, that's the one thing I'm very passionate about. Is I love music. I want to share it with people in a more meaningful way than just throwing up a Spotify playlist for whenever. So I love the idea of, I'm going to be on this website from 8 until 9:30, playing you choice cuts of Japanese rock, or rock and roll from Germany from the 70s. You can be as specific as you want with it, and I think that it's an area that is still in its infancy. So I feel like jumping in right now would be really cool. This was kind of in a post-COVID world. I think, if you can't go out and dance with your friends, going online and dancing with people is the next best opportunity.
Yeah, no, I think that's really cool. I mean, even, getting back to like why I started doing this show in the first place is like, I think now it's just about like trying to, if you can control, the output and the content yourself as much as you can, which was kind of already going on anyway with, podcasting and like, with music, just if you know how to get yourself out there on YouTube and Spotify. But I can't imagine what your industry is dealing with. I know, like I said, a little bit through secondhand knowledge with what my brother's dealing with, but I don't know, man. I think that could be really cool. I mean, you bring up Japanese rock. You've been to Japan. You and another one of my best friend. I probably have two people I consider my best friend. One of those.
Oh my God, I'm honored. That's so nice of you, Mike. Thank you.
one of my friend Bill.
You're fine.
Well, you're up there, man. My friend Bill. My friend Bill has been to Japan like a million times. Like, people who get into Japanese culture seem to. It almost becomes like. I don't know how to say it. It becomes so important to them. I think that seems to be the case with you as well. You've been there a number of times, right?
I've been there about 7 times. It's my Burning Man. When people come back from Burning Man and they go like, man, you wouldn't believe it, being out on the playa. It's just life-changing. It's Japan. I was just having a conversation with my friend Garrett about this. It's like, in a week in Japan is like a month anywhere else. There's so much, especially if you're traveling with friends, there's so much you can cram into a single session. And I don't know if that's just because everything is crammed together in Japan itself, but it's fascinating how they've spaced things out. You can go into one building and there'll be 8 floors, and every single thing will be different. So a record store on the 2nd floor, a dentist on the 3rd, a high-end fashion thing on the 4th, 100%. Office spaces, apartments, and then a sushi restaurant. And this is everywhere. And you never have to leave the building. All of a sudden, like a barbershop on top. It's this weird, and it's fun, and the food is delicious, and they value things in a way that we've moved past. They keep certain dreams alive, and I think it's just because if they're record collecting, because I kind of see things through record collecting. In America, we're all about American made. It's all, we put out these records, this is what you get. In Japan, they press records and they import from everywhere. And it's sort of like they're importing ideas from everywhere. So you go to a record store and you're going to find original British pressings of things, original Italian pressings, original German pressings. They value other and like outside perspectives in a way that we kind of are moving past. We export our culture.
Right.
And Japan has, but the other thing about Japan is everything that they import, they put their own stamp on it. So even like Japanese rock is super complicated. It's more similar to traditional Japanese music in that the chord progressions are all over the place and they're smart. It's like math rock.
Is the band Boris is from Japan, right?
Yeah. So great heavy metal band.
Rock.
Blend genres like crazy. There'll be noise 1 second, then drone, and then really fast. So yeah, I mean, like there's stuff like that. Shoegaze is still alive over in Japan. Like 90s style hip hop is big. If you go and look up Shibuya Kei, Kei, or Visual Kei, they had a trip hop scene, but even before then in the 80s, Visual Kei is fascinating because it's like hair metal, but amped up to 10. If you look at those guys, they look like anime characters. And it's just, I don't know if I've made any sense. It's kind of hard for me to explain what it is about Japan, but every time I go, I have a ball in a way that I didn't anticipate having. Like, you go to Italy, you're going to have, meatballs and, spaghetti. Right. But in Japan, you never know what's around the next corner. You might find a secret hidden bar that's super cool and smoky, or you might find, the love of your life. I don't know.
Has that happened to you?
Not in Japan, but I love the place. I love Japan.
My good buddy Chris Ara, he plays drums in Murphy's Law, and they played a baseball stadium in Japan. And he said the thing about Japan is like everything there is done with like a sense of pride, but like you said, not in the American sense of pride where we're just like, yeah, pride. Like it's almost like an appreciation. Like he's saying, like you'll find someone working at a restaurant who's like sweeping the floor, and like you've never seen someone sweep the floor with like such conviction. I don't know, like if that resonates at all, but that was
sure.
Explained. I thought that was pretty interesting.
It's not about the size of an operation. It's about the quality of the operation. And a lot of, I've had the best meals in the tiniest restaurants. And it's just about the attention and the care that gets put into something. And I think it goes for all of their businesses.
That's awesome.
It's about the attention and the care. And, we've shirked that in favor of, mass-produced things. More things equals better. The apartments over there are so small. Yeah, at least the ones that I've been in, even the houses, compared to American houses, but you realize just how little we actually need and how we fill our lives up with. And I'm guilty of this. I'm a 90s kid. I collected Pokemon cards, and ever since then I've just needed to accumulate things. But, they do so much more with so much less in a way that really is... It strikes a chord with me.
That's interesting, man. I haven't had the pleasure of going yet, but hopefully when COVID's over, hopefully I'd like to do a lot of different traveling. I want to go to I need London as a matter of fact, I was supposed to be this time right now I was meant to be in Ireland, actually. My cousin was getting married, and that got canceled. And then,
right.
You remember my buddy Samuel, the rapper? I don't know if you met. Did you
Yes, I do. Because he
we
was
were working
living.
together when he was coming.
Yeah, he was living in your basement or something.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that guy.
Yeah. So I got to go see him over there. I got a lot of traveling to do, but I wanted to talk about actually like how, from being in New York, everybody talks about LA as if it's some kind of, and I guess we were getting this too in the beginning of COVID, but I feel like now people talk about LA like it's this zombie apocalypse and like everyone's leaving and like all that sort of thing. So I just like, as someone who's like, on the ground in LA, like what's your take on all that?
I was just in New York. I went for my grandma's birthday, and I stopped in Manhattan, and that felt like everybody had left.
Yeah.
Much more so than Los Angeles. But I loved being in New York with nobody there. It really felt like everybody who was there had to be there because they either lived there or they worked there. There was no tourism. I've never seen Times Square that empty.
Yeah.
Look, Los Angeles is noticeably emptier.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of our industry is built on tourism. People want to come and take the movie tours or the TMZ bus tours, or they want to go see Grauman's Chinese Center. And with all the restaurants, the bars are closed. Restaurants are now open on the sidewalk.
Okay.
With that, there's a little bit of life being injected back, but and I'm always torn. I forget if cases are up or down here. I don't know, but and also with all the fires that are happening, I don't know if the sky right now is the weirdest shade. I can't even describe what it's like. Red beige. It's like smog meets daylight meets fire.
The pictures look insane. I'm glad you're safe and you're doing well.
Thanks.
I mean, I know obviously a lot of the industry is shut down, and LA seems to be kind of behind New York in terms of businesses reopening. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about the iconic places. All the comedy is not happening.
Yep.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Do you see yourself being out there for
indefinitely?
Much longer? Well, I mean, I know that's a tough question, but just I mean, are you thinking about getting out of Dodge, or you're good?
Well, I would be lying if I said I didn't think about it every once in a while, but all my friends are here, and the business that I want to do is currently out here. My dream would be another sitcom. That's what I want to do with my life. I loved working on Victorious, and it's just what I feel like I'm naturally good at. I'd love to push my boundaries, and if anywhere else would have me to, and allow me to push my boundaries, I'd love to get back to doing theater. Going back to New York would be, to do that would be so great, and I would love to spend that time there. But yeah, I mean, you've spent some time in LA. I don't know exactly how you feel about it, but
I love it. No, that's the thing. I fucking love it. I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
Look, have I ever spent more than? I've never spent longer than a month there, so I can't speak to living there or anything like that. But I like California in general. I mean,
it's wonderful here.
I've been to San Francisco and I've been to LA, so I can't say I don't know California. But what I've seen, I've really enjoyed. I plan to spend more time out there. It's weird. Even I've only been there twice, but the second time when I went back, I was like, oh yeah, I know this place. Like, I almost kind of felt like really comfortable. It was kind of weird.
I've the more I've lived here, the more I feel like you definitely get what you put into it.
Sure.
It's the kind of town where if you put in the work and that means going out and meeting people and being cool, just being cool and being in Los Angeles, that's half the job. That's it. But it takes a lot because it can try on you, and there will be weird times, dark times. It's an industry built around, or it's a town built around one industry.
Yeah.
You don't. It can get so monotonous just meeting people who also are actors or models or directors, producers. That can be kind of trouble. I loved being in New York, and you never know who you're going to meet. You could be sitting at a bar next to a professor or somebody or a banker or a Wall Street person. It's you can have so many more fascinating conversations. But if you're in the entertainment industry and you have a strong work ethic, and the talent to back it up, that's very important as well. But
Right.
I think that, and you definitely have all that. I think you're funny, you're charismatic, you got
Thanks,
great
man.
musical chops. So if you find yourself out here, you know plenty of people.
Yeah, no,
So.
I've thought about it. I love New York. I love Long Island, to be honest. I know it's not very in vogue to say that, like, you're supposed to hate on it, and I hate on the racism. I hate on everything that's going on.
It's weird. I didn't realize we had that bad of a racism problem until 2016.
But
I didn't.
I don't want to ever downplay what you're saying, because it is true. But all I want to do is point out the fact that those people are very loud, and they'll never say they're racist. They're just, no, what? I'm Blue Lives Matter. I'm this. I'm a Trump supporter. They don't want to say they're racist. But what I'll say is, there's almost, I don't know if it's equal, but there's a giant percentage of people on Long Island, not just young people, not just people that look like you and me, a giant percentage of people that are not about all of that bullshit. And
of course.
when I tell you there was a Black Lives Matter rally in Merrick, and 10,000 people came out, man. And this is Merrick. We're walking down Sunrise Highway, man. You can't believe this shit. Like, it was on the news and everything, but it was just like, when I saw that, I was like, man. And dude, we were marching, and people were coming out of their houses. I'm talking about people in their 60s and 70s, white. Like, women crying, applauding. So it's not, we kind of get cast as, like, this repugnant place of just horrible people, which there are certainly a good percentage of.
Wow.
For sure. But, I mean, look, man, I don't know. I think you gotta, I don't want to be corny, but it's like, look, you got, without ignoring what the problems, you also have to have some kind of goal of looking on the bright side. And I don't mean in a rose-colored whatever, like, oh, look on the bright side, man, like, ignore your problems. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, like, mobilize the people that are here that are doing, are about the right way to be, which is, like, just, loving each other and being for, I don't know, like, what, it's crazy, man. But I don't know. I mean, this is our neighborhood. This is our neighborhood,
I'm so glad to hear 10,000 people is wonderful.
That was only one night. It's gone on all summer.
Not what I would have expected at all. And, so the more that the farther away from home I've gotten, the more I can appreciate it. And hearing that just makes me feel more like, Massapequa, we're doing it. All right, good. Or,
I mean, look, 10
wonderful.
times a day I see shitheads and I want to fucking, like, freak out. I'm not, I can't stress that enough. Like, I'm not downplaying it, but, there's some good people here. And like you said, it's a fertile ground for talent. And, I don't know, man. But yeah, so my point is, like, that was a real weird way of getting to the point. But, like, I love, like, my friends and family and, like, the roots out here. So, but I do love California, and it's something that I've thought about. Probably not anymore, but, like, maybe like 10 years ago, 5, 6, 7 years ago, it was definitely a thought. Especially when I came out the second time, I was at the Comedy Store every fucking night. I was like, LA, I'm fucking Mr. LA. Like, I was just into it.
So the reason why I had originally asked about if you're in Massapequa or not, I saw our old friend Jen Pelly asked a very, very great question, which is, how much did a local music scene play into, or, how important is a local music scene for kids? Something to that.
She asked a question? What do you mean?
In the chat. I saw it
really?
just, scroll by really fast, but I think it's a valuable question, especially because this is how we first bonded. She said something, I don't know if it was the Village Pub South or South Shore Music, but, I don't know if you had heard this, but Revolution in Amityville closed.
Yes.
And
Oh,
closed
yeah,
permanently.
Revolution closed. Amityville Music Hall did not close. But you said
Okay, good.
Revolution in Amityville. That's
Yes.
gotcha.
I
Yep.
just I just saw that Revolution. While I'd never been there, I know that it had been a place. Look, Amityville's an hour 10 minutes from Manhattan.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, it was a place to go for a local, to get a taste of local music. I know that you've played at uh, McBeery's. What was the place in
Uh,
Freeport? Or is that Freeport or Wantagh?
well, Mr. Beery's is
Mr.
in
Beery's. Thank you.
the main, when people think of Mr. Beery's, it's in Bethpage. There's also one in East Rockaway. But when you say
Okay.
Mr. Beery's, the Hempstead Turnpike on in Bethpage.
I knew you played there. We had places like Village Pub South, which I think is
Yeah.
what. And it was so. Those places were so important and formative.
For sure.
I mean, look, maybe not Village Pub South, but some of these other places were nice, safe havens. I loved, the Cup in Wantagh, where you could go and open mic nights.
Yeah.
These were very, very important, and I'm so worried that those are going to go away, and that future Mike McManus's and Matt Bennett's won't have a place for their music to touch other people, and extend not just their audience and fan base, but the musical tastes of people like myself, like the annoying little brother who's like, "What's Dinosaur Jr.?"
Mm-hmm. No, it's
So as the man on the street, are you noticing a change? I'm also not following these people on Facebook or Twitter, so I don't know exactly what the scene is like out there right now.
Yeah, I mean, so when it comes to Revolution in particular, and it's sort of I know it's a bittersweet thing for people. I wrote something kind of like not so nice on the internet about Revolution, but my point was, like, the place closed and everyone was showering the place in, rest in peace Revolution, all this stuff, and I didn't even really write anything. I just reposted something that I saw, which was I don't even know who it was. Some kid had wrote maybe the place that takes Revolution's spot won't make their bands pay to play there. And I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, that's always been a problem, but less about the little dramas like that, but more about just I wanted to stress, I guess, with the question, just how important supporting a local scene and having a local scene is. It doesn't matter what the music that's being played is. What matters are the connections that are being made. I don't know if you wanted to elaborate on that a little bit.
It's super
elaborate
important.
on me elaborating on Jen Pelly.
It's super important, man. I mean, like, I think like when I was saying before that not like rarely a month goes by without someone bringing up Festizio to me. A lot of that certainly it's not about me, it's not about Festizio, but it's about like those bonds that we made and those times that we made when we were kids in our formative years. So I think the idea of that going away is obviously super scary. I mean, there's also the large DIY scene that comes into play, which is equally, if probably definitely more important, actually. And look, like, a lot of people had really good times at these venues, but I do think it's important to bring up that the pay to play model,
right.
I'm not. Look, there's two sides to the coin, because I get it. As a business, if you're gonna if you're gonna open your place up and you're gonna have a bunch of like 16-year-old kids play and no one's paying, like,
for drinks or
like, I get that, but at the same time, I just think it's like you got to figure it out. Like, maybe it's do an all ages show where there's no cover, and you make your money up during the week with like the 21 plus where everyone's drinking. I'm just, the idea of making kids, like, Liz brought up a really good point of one time they wanted to play, I think it was the Village Pub South at the time, and they couldn't sell, like, I guess they asked them to sell a certain amount of tickets and they felt like they couldn't do it, so then they didn't play the gig and then they didn't end up ever playing again. Like, I think that's, I don't know, I just think, like, there has to be, and a lot of people do it the right way. A lot of people really care about fostering a scene, and Mr. Beery's you brought up, they've always been great. They've been, as crazy as that place seems,